Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
It's me, Egbert, once again. I'm the new owner of this station. I went out and hired the best talk radio consultant, Jeff Allen from News Talk STL, and told him to hire the worst talent he could find. Jeff did exactly as I told him. Ladies and gentlemen, here are Brad and John.
John, can I ask one crazy thing? The debates were last night. You didn't view the debates. Was there a reason for that? You just didn't care, or what?
Yeah. So I was out with kids and got back about 9 o'clock. And then usually I take our audio from the show around 8:30 and invest an hour and a half in fixing the posts and then doing an Instagram post. But when I got back at 9 o'clock, I still had that hour and a half in front of me. So I chose to prioritize the show instead of sitting down and watching the debate. And then it was time to go to bed.
Okay. 23 years ago. Hard to believe. 23 years ago. Where were you when you found out about 9/11?
My dad called me on the phone. Yeah, I was in an apartment living in the Central Rear End. And my dad called me and had an off-color comment out of the blue. And I had no idea what he was talking about. And he's like, turn on the television. And I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, where were you, Brett?
I will forever be linked to a lady by the name of Karen Young. Karen Young was a salesperson that I hired. Matter of fact, it was her first day, and I asked her to come a little early because she was a little bit concerned about not knowing the computer system, so she got there at the station a little bit early. We were sitting at the front desk, 511 West 5th Street in Washington, and I was going over the computer system, and my wife called me, and she said, oh my God, there's been this horrible thing that's happened. There's a plane that smashed into the World Trade Center in New York. And I go like, oh, wow. Having an aviation background, that's not the first time that has happened. I mean, not with the World Trade Center, but years ago, I believe it was some kind of an Army or an Air Force plane, like a bomber or something like that, crashed into the Empire State Building. And that's not the first time that planes have flown in the buildings. Matter of fact, being an old-time North County guy, years and years and years ago, I don't know if you know this or not, but there was a small plane that crashed into the gym at McClure High School. Did you know this?
No, I never heard that. No.
Yeah, years ago there was a guy who took off from Lambert and in a small, I think like a Cessna 152, little small single-engine plane, and his engine went out and he tried to land and he was trying to loop around and land on the football field at McClure, which is just to the south side of 270 there. If you're up in North County, people know exactly where I'm talking about. Between well, they've changed everything, but it would be between West Florissant, not Washington Elizabeth and what would the other exit there be? Anyway, I can't remember because they've changed the exits up there. Some of the places you can't get off anymore. It's not like the old days.
It'd be New Florissant Road, right?
Yes, exactly. But I don't think there's an exit there anymore, which is sort of weird. But anyway, he crashed into the top of the gym during the day when kids were there at school, and unfortunately he was killed. Well, anyway, going back to that, about 20 minutes later, my ex-wife, or at the time my wife calls me and said, oh my God, another plane's crashed into the other World Trade Center. And at that point in time, I thought to myself, this is not good. There's something going on here.
Yeah.
And then as the morning unfolded, we started listening to, reports. As a matter of fact, we had a news feed at our station, which we didn't have on the air, but we could listen to it essentially what was called in queue, where we put it into a little queue speaker that's on the console. And at that point in time, we realized that things were not going well. And Karen looks at me, I can still remember this, and she says, I think I picked a bad day to start a sales job. And things went downhill from there. And I remember that day. I remember it very, very distinctly. I remember being out near the airport and getting out of my car and having the eerie feeling of nobody's moving at the airport. There are no planes taking off or landing. It's very quiet. It's one of those things you don't realize there's a background noise to life until that background noise is gone. I mean, if you live near like a major highway and you get used to that the drone of the cars and trucks and things like that. All of a sudden, one day, they shut down that highway because of an accident, or they're doing maintenance where they're taking down a bridge or something like that. All of a sudden, the silence becomes very apparent, if you know what I'm saying. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
and see, now, it bothered me, and the one thing the one good thing, and I've made this reference before, and you're probably going to laugh about this, but the one thing that when, and who knows if it were spontaneous, it sure looked spontaneous, when the Republicans and the Democrats stood on the steps of the Capitol building, and what was it, God Bless America, or America the Beautiful?
God Bless America.
God Bless America, okay? Once again, it was not Republicans and Democrats. It was not Kamala on one side and Donald Trump on the other side. It wasn't Nancy Pelosi on one side and whoever on the other side. It was Americans. And we all became Americans. We weren't black, we weren't white, we weren't lesbian, we weren't gay, we weren't female, we weren't male. We were Americans who were hurting. And sometimes I wish we could go back to that. But obviously, I don't want to go back to that situation. But the thing that still bothers me is a friend of mine who is from England said, look at the difference how the Americans and how the English, because then remember they had all these other crazy things. They had a double-decker bus that was, blown up in London, and they blew up some bombs in the tube and stuff like that. And his point was, we dust ourselves off and we go back to work. And the idea being is the day after they blew up the double-decker buses in London, the double-decker buses were back out there on the streets. The day after they blew up the subway, the subways were back up and running. And we shut everything down. And to the point where the terrorists won. They not only did they strike a deadly blow into obviously the situation with the World Trade Centers, but obviously the Pentagon, and who knows where the fourth plane was going. People said it was, some people say the White House, some people say the Capitol building, whichever. The next day, on the 12th, we should have gotten up in the morning and go, okay, F those guys, we're going back to normal life. And those guys can get effed because they're not going to impact us. Get what I'm saying?
I get exactly what you're saying. And the British phrase, of course, that we saw a lot, which is keep calm and carry on. Right. Because, and part of it was, if you go back to the history of London during World War II, where they were incessantly bombed by the Nazis, incessantly bombed with bombers, incessantly bombed with the rockets that Werner von Braun had put together, the V1 or whatever they called the V1 and the V2, the buzz bombs, as they called it. And the next morning, after the attacks at night, the next morning, you would see, and there's all sorts of video of this, I mean, not video, but film back in the day, and pictures of people walking down the street, stepping over what used to be their next door neighbor's house, which was now in shambles in the middle of the street, and they're going about their daily business. They're going down to the bakery to get some bread. They're going down to the fish market to buy some fish. Life goes on. And I think that was a huge mistake we made. But see, we do it so often, and like the situation with this situation that happened with the terrible school shooting last week in Georgia. Okay, the high school is still closed. Okay, once again, do one of two things: either say, okay, there's never ever going to be anybody going down high school again, sort of like they did with the high school down in Florida, and I think they just demolished that building finally after the trial was over. But either say, we're not going to, set foot in there again, or we're going to clean it up and we're going back to normal. I mean, I'll tell you a story that just the other day, I was in the Quick Trip, and I know you never go to Quick Trips, John, right? I'm not really. I'm more of a mobile on the run guy. Go ahead.
But you don't even go inside. You're a pay at the pump.
Oh no, like I'm not. Unless I'm on a road trip and I need to use the bathroom, there's no way I'm going inside a gas station.
Okay, I went to the Quick Trip on 94. First Capital there in St. Charles, just on the north side of 70, where the clerk, I don't know if you remember the story, 2 or 3 years ago, guy came in at night, robbed the clerk, put a knife to the clerk's neck, to a young woman, and was threatening, to kill her if she didn't give him all the money and stuff like that. And a good Samaritan came into the store, realized what was going on, walked out of the store very casually, came back in the store, went out to his car, apparently got his gun out of his car, came back in the store and killed the dude, shot him, killed him, okay? I'm thinking to myself, okay, right where I'm standing, a guy got killed. A bad guy got put in the ground where I'm standing. This place, the Quick Trip people came in, cleaned it up, redid, put probably new stock in the store and the whole bit, opened back up, business as usual.
Yeah.
Is that wrong of them?
Well, no, but I think that, so what did we learn among the many things we learned during COVID was that people will use any kind of a crisis as an excuse to not do work. So if there's a school shooting, which is tragic, everybody can, latch on to the fact that it was a tragedy, and that's a good excuse to be in hysteria and not have to go to work. What did we learn during COVID? Oh my God, I'm so terrified. Whether it was 2 weeks to stop the spread or shelter in place, I don't know. I can't get any work done this week. COVID, people will use any excuse. And Brett, let's go back to the fact that on the evening of September 11th, everyone gathered on the steps of the Capitol saying, God bless America. And that type of behavior is what some would call episodic and non-trending. So which means that's not the human state. The human state is to argue with each other. And how long did it take for liberals to start hating George W. Bush again and to talk about how terrible he was? So we have rare moments where we come together, but that's not the human state anymore, Brad. The human state is to see a comment on Facebook and ask if you've ever heard the sound of a fist flattening your face. That's the human condition. The human condition is not gathering on the steps of the Capitol and uniting against terrorism. No, it's being petty and arguing with each other.
So in other words, I'm being petty by posting what J.C. Corcoran said he was going to punch me in the face and flatten my face?
No, you're misinterpreting what I'm saying. My point is that people are going to argue and find conflict. And the fact that for one brief shining moment, everybody stood on the steps of the Capitol, that is what the finance advisor who I follow, Keith McCullough, would call episodic and non-trending. It happened once, and it'll never predict future behavior.
I guess so. There's one thing that when I watch, I'm a video guy, and here I'm a radio guy, but I love watching videos, and some people, I got into TikTok way before TikTok, and nobody knew what TikTok was, and I burnt out on it, and now I'm a YouTube Shorts kind of guy, okay? One of the videos that I see quite a few of that always makes me feel good is people responding to other people in need and not caring about their own safety. You know what I mean? You see videos of people saving people's lives by pushing them out of a car, out of the way of a car and things like that. That always makes me feel good about the human state because of the fact that these people don't know each other, but yet they're risking their lives to save another person's life, okay? Now, let's end the show on a weird note, okay?
Because these last two segments haven't been weird. We've covered a lot of ground, Brad.
We have. Okay. Okay. Let me read you the headline. Okay. California State Senator forced Chief of Staff to perform sex acts that left him injured.
Oh, wow. Is there anything you can say about it that won't get us kicked off the air? What is it? Is it so? First of all, it's California. I'm guessing it's a man with a man.
No, it's the California State Senator is. Her name is Marie Alvarado-Gil, and she's a very attractive woman. And the dude is a dude, and he was like her chief of staff. And the story goes in. Once again, this ticks me off with Fox News that I put my stupid name in the thing. I don't know how many times. You've exceeded the number of free stories you can watch. And you go in and you put your email address in, and then you go to your email and you go back and there it is. Like they're not selling you anything. They're just grabbing your email address. I can't read the whole article, but the chief of staff has sued her both for sexual harassment, but also for injuries, and it lists his injuries, and they're pretty funny. That's all I can say.
And are the injuries all below the belt, I'm guessing?
Some are, some aren't. He's got equal above and below the belt injuries. So, and once again, if you look at this woman, I mean, if you showed this picture to 10 guys, 9 of them would say, "Oh, she's an 8, at least maybe 9, maybe even like a 9+."
I have her picture up, Brad. I see it.
Okay, you look at it. Give me the John score.
Oh, so this picture was taken years ago, and she's much heavier. She's got the fat girl photo angle, And at least in the picture I see, when women want to look a little bit smaller, they take that picture from up above so that you can't see their chins. And so this woman, and then I see a picture of her that she didn't post herself, an AP picture. She's, the good thing is she's past menopause, so you're not going to get her pregnant. But you can tell that her own profile pictures that she's heftier. Like she doesn't have any kind of food discipline. So she doesn't look like she looks like in her publicity pictures. But the good thing is, I see. It says that her last name is Gill, and she asked him to gill her lily. What does that mean? What's it called when you gill the lily, Brad? Is that like John? Is that like playing with her honeysuckle? What is that?
Once again, what John has just said, there's women listening to the show who are probably saying, what a male chauvinist pig that John guy is.
And a whopping 15% of our listeners are women, Brad, and we love and we appreciate all of them.
And 14% of them just left, right?
Yay! That's good. We're calling them, Brad.
Okay. That's going to do it, John. We're out of here. And
hey, we got some great text messages from... Oh, wait a minute. You weren't included on that. Never mind. Hey, by the way, Shelly Barr, we love you.
Where'd that come from?
I just want to point that out.
Where'd that come from? Did she text you or something?
No, I'm just saying that I know that Shelly Barr listens to our show. I mean, you've said that she listens to our show. I know she listens to our show. And Shelly is the type of woman who can hear us do a little bit of a work, on the show, and she's not going to, fly off the handle like other people would. We love you, Shelly.
Hold on. I just got a text. Oh, it's from Shelly. Tell John he's a... Oh, I can't say that. Okay. Okay. Say goodbye, John.
See you guys tomorrow.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?